It is great to be with you for Wednesday's edition of Footy Talk. There is a lot to get through today as well. This is a little different, of course, on a Wednesday. We come at the stories and all of the big news in footy from the players' perspective. We take you behind the scenes. We try and give you some sort of understanding of what it's like at Clubland and also for the players involved. And there's a few stories that are linked very closely to that today. I'm Jack Heverin. I normally get excited when I come into the Footy Talk podcast studio on a Wednesday because Abbey Holmes, the Queen of Channel 7, is here. Abs, morning to you.
Hello, very good morning. We're going to need an hour for this show, aren't we? There is a lot going on across the AFL world, which we're going to delve into. But, pumped to be here on a Wednesday.
So not one queen, but two queens.
Yes.
We've got the Queen of
The
Channel
double
7 and the Queen of Triple M Footy, Kate McCarthy. Hello, K-Mac.
People often say there's only room for one queen. There is more than enough room for the two of us. There is more than enough room for as many queens as you want in the world of football. Bring them all on. And yes, there is so much to get through this morning. I'm really looking forward to it. But wow, a lot of news to come out of just yesterday.
Yeah, just yesterday alone, our WhatsApp group has been flying with a lot of things to talk about. Let's start with Thoughts of the Week. That's where we always land first, and you've always got the new ball, Abs.
Oh, where do I even start? I'm going to start on a bit of a lighter note. We're at round 18, right? We can start looking forward to 2025, which is pretty scary. But opening round next year, I think everybody would agree with me. It was successful this year, taking the game to the northern states, having opening round spread across New South Wales and Queensland. But my thought of the week is around what Jeff Brown said from Collingwood, of course. They were involved in that this year, but he doesn't want to be involved next year if it's just a few of the clubs going up there. He wants everybody to be involved, and that was how I felt coming off the back of round zero this season. Yep. It was a great idea, a great thought. Loved, taking the game up north to try and grow it in those northern states, but I want everybody involved because it feels a bit, you get to round 7 and round 8 and clubs have played 6 games, some have played 7, 8. Like, it's very confusing for the industry as well. Yes. I just think get everybody up there, have a big party, open the season with a bang, and everyone's happy.
I think it helps also for that competition balance. So You're coming up against a team that's in round 4 is fresh off a bye, so they've had 3 opportunities to get their game right and then have had a whole week to review it in depth, to recover, to freshen up again. And then also you look at that opening round and then round 1, when you've had a hit out at the level and you're coming up against a team that hasn't yet played, the blow that you receive in round 1 that is just unlike anything else because you've gone from match sim, practice matches, which are nothing like the level, and then you play your first game and you're feeling a lot better for it. And you're coming up against a team that's yet to play theirs. I just think that's not balanced. And I agree. I think whether we look at its opening round or we just say, hey, round 1 is going, because that's another round then of football.
Oh, for anyone that uses AFL tables, I forget.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Just move round 1. Say, okay, opening round was such a success. Round 1 is the opening round because it has been for most of the time now. And we're going to take that to the northern states and everyone's going to play and it's going to be a footy festival. And I think that's a great idea.
The AFL listened to this show, so that is a very good point.
Last time you floated something with the AFL, it got written off on
Mate, you're the one cracking headlines this morning, so that's putrid. You're cool.
We'll get to that.
Elon Musk on X.
Oh, yeah. I tweet once every 3 months.
But
and it blows up.
It's quality, not quantity, Jack.
The one tweet, and they even took the emoji at the same time. They copied the emoji. So just to finish on that, are you both okay? So we'll essentially have 2 parties in 5 weeks, really, won't we? Because we've got a party to start the season and then a party about a month later for gather round. So we're on board with that?
Oh, I am. Absolutely. I think we always say in Channel 7 world, like, get through to Anzac Day and then you can take a breath. I feel like Anzac Day, we've got opening round, we've got gather round, we've got Easter, Anzac round. There is so much going on. So I feel like the first kind of, 5-6 weeks of the season is a big party.
I like it. Good idea.
Great.
That's going to get written off as well, that one. That'll be in the Herald Sun later this afternoon. My thought of the week is around the Sydney Swans, who have lost their last couple. I'm not going to be knocked off the perch. I still think they are the number 1 seed right now. I just think that a couple of teams, and St Kilda last week in particular, really went to school on them and really did their work about how to slow them down and push them wide and all that sort of stuff.
Very well coached, Ross Lyon.
Extremely well coached. And that's going to be Sydney's challenge now, is to get past that. Luke Parker's available for selection this week from suspension from that bump down at Frankston in the VFL. He'll obviously play VFL this week because he will be so short on match conditioning that it's not funny. As soon as he's available, he needs to come into that team. Now, I know they've got a star-studded midfield, but in the last couple of weeks, forgive me, I've got a bit of a head cold this morning. In the last couple of weeks, their midfield has been brought back to the pack a little bit because, again, Kate, people are doing their work on Goulden and Heeney and Warner. Taylor Adams played as the sub last week. I think there is a spot for Luke Parker in this team ASAP.
And Callum Mills coming back in
so
this week.
I was going to say, what do you
well.
do there then?
So
Because Callum Mills.
Yeah, with my thought of the week, which is coming up in a second,
Oh.
there's a spot that's available for Callum Mills. I think he'll step straight back in, and we've already sort of been floated that idea by the coach. He said he's going to come straight back in. I think you're right. I think a new look for them in the midfield, it doesn't necessarily mean the midfielders lose their spot. It means that different people can line up in different positions and play different sort of ways. It gives them another way to sort of skin the cat effectively. That's a little bit less predictable for other coaches to prepare for.
And I think part of that too, Abs, is that the St Kilda game last week is the prime example. I watched it yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. That game got slowed down big time.
And that's the
And
thing.
when it got slowed, it didn't suit Goulden, it didn't suit Heeney, and it didn't suit Chad Warner, but it will suit Luke Parker.
Well, Fremantle, St Kilda, they've shown the blueprint, I guess, of how to beat the Sydney Swans, take away their uncontested marks, take away their control of the ball around the ground, and you can really limit their access in the way that they want to drive the footy forward. But it is a question. Like Luke Parker, what a luxury it is for John Longmire, having this guy come back in at round 18, heading into the pointy end. You're approaching finals. We've spoken about it at length throughout the year, but imagine having him even as a sub, like having him on the bench, knowing that somebody of his calibre, somebody with his experience is about to get injected into the action if and when you need him. What a luxury for them to have. But it is going to be an interesting watch. Does he play forward? Does he go straight into the midfield? Do they find somewhere else for him to slot into? But with him and Callum Mills both coming back in, interested to see how that shakes up.
K-Mac, thought of the week. You gave a nice little hook a couple of minutes ago, so now we're all excited.
Well, my thought of the week is free up whatever night the appeals board happens on. I think it's a Thursday night or tonight. I'm not sure, but we will be going there. Absolutely,
Speak for
we will be
yourself.
going there.
Hallelujah.
We won't be going there.
No, I won't either.
But absolutely, he needs to appeal
no
this.
way that they will not appeal this. So looking a couple of years back, Paddy Cripps, he took his 2-match suspension on Callum Archie there. We spent 4.5 hours. As I said, we didn't. The people that unfortunately are subjected to that spent 4.5 hours arguing that down. He got off, ended up winning the Brownlow by 1 vote that year. I'm not even referring to anything to do with the Brownlow. Looking at that act, they need to go to the appeals board.
Absolutely.
There's been two similar, circumstances this year. Jesse Hogan, Zach Butters, they were off the ball. They were far more intentional. They were looking at the player and they struck them. Jesse Hogan was lucky because he just missed the chin of his opponent. Zach Butters was lucky because he didn't get him high. They were far more intentional than anything that Isaac Heeney did in that 1-match suspension.
This is an incredible injustice to one of the fairest players in the game. And K-Mac and I were just talking about this before we came on air. As forwards, that incident happens a million times a game when you were just trying to get separation on your defender. And you could see with Isaac Heeney, his arm movement was going down. It's not like he was deliberately trying to find the face of Jimmy Webster. He actually turned around to kind of see if he was okay before he was like, shit, I've got to go and take a mark. And I think you would both agree with me, right? I mean, we'll get into the Brownlow stuff. We kind of have to. I'm sorry. But it would break my heart if this stands and he wins the Brownlow with an asterisk next to his name. That will break my heart. So if this is to stand, I hope that he comes second and it all is fair in love and war, whatever. But you would both agree with me that in today's day and age, it is so much easier to get reported than it was 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. And the game has evolved, right? Why hasn't the fairest aspect to the Brownlow medal evolved at the same time? Because Paddy Cripps' comments ahead of game 200, you just touched on it. He wins a Brownlow off the back of getting his suspension overturned.
In which a player was concussed as well.
Absolutely. Different result.
Yeah.
And same thing, we were talking before. If you've played this game and you haven't copped a blow to the snoz, have you really played this game before?
Well, I've had 4 nose operations. I've had my nose left on Icon Park. The
perfect person.
100% can concur with that.
Yes.
You've had more nose operations than Jennifer Aniston.
I have, and I've still got a worse nose than her, so I need to talk to her people. The thing that I just cannot believe. So, yes, they've come out and said they're not, Laura Kane, we're not changing the fairest aspect, everything like that. I went back to the heyday, I was just feeling a bit down the other day, so I was like, I'm going to watch the 2000 to 2003 three-peat, the Brisbane Lions. Just one a day, get me through the next few days and got me up and about. And I came out of that and I thought there would be 18 players that would be suspended in this day and age from these games. Every game. there's just the way that the game has evolved, the care for the player now, the change in the tackling, the change in contact with players, that has changed.
Yeah.
And we have happily changed that.
Yep.
Just this year, we've changed from from careless to intentional. We've changed the wording in a rule, yet we're so sure that we're not going to change this element of something. And when it suits us in this industry, we're happy to say, no, history has to maintain.
Yeah.
But in this, we'll look past it for that because we need to change this.
We can't become too precious.
No.
We absolutely have a duty of care to the athlete and to the person, to the player. But we play a contact sport, right? There's incidents like this that happen a million times a game. So, appeals board, here we bloody come. We're all on the bus.
Free Heeney. Free Heeney.
And you know what, Kate? I think you should volunteer to go down on behalf of Footy
Yes,
Talk.
please.
Spend the 4 hours on Thursday
Please.
night.
There's no one that the AFL would love more than me to be there. That is
We'll
for sure.
FaceTime. We'll FaceTime you
I
from the
guess
comfort
just
of the couch.
to wrap this in a bow, doesn't it kind of speak? I mean, we probably sound like this is Whingy Wednesday on
I
Footy
know.
Talk, you and I, but doesn't this sound like a lot of what we've been talking about all year, Abs? About that there are so many things that are changing by the minute, by the week, but other things aren't changing. Like we're not in step. We change a rule, we change an interpretation, we change the way that something's considered, but we don't think about the other things that go with it as well.
It's not clear. There's no clarity on a lot of this stuff with the AFL this year. And I think the players can feel it, coaches feel it, media feel it, fans feel it.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody is feeling confused about a number of incidents that have happened throughout the year. So I don't know what the AFL do, how they kind of mainstream everything into a funnel and everybody is super clear, on board, gets it and has the clarity that everybody needs.
Some news that's just come through literally as we press record on this show this morning. Unfortunately, it's not great news as well for Josh Carmichael out of Collingwood. 24 years of age, got a head knock in the round 6 VFL game, and that has ended his career. Tragic.
Yeah. Shattered for him, young player, and unfortunately we've seen a number now this year. Only O'Driscoll a few weeks ago, the same thing, got drafted at the end of last year and then doesn't even get to experience a game of AFL football.
Didn't even get through his full first pre-season.
Pre-season, 100%. So we're feeling for Josh Carmichael here and we hope he's okay, first and foremost. We wish him all the very best with whatever might be next. But this is also a massive blow for Collingwood.
Yep.
Another forward that is missing from their side, which I'm sure we'll probably touch on Collingwood and Geelong coming up on Friday night as well. But I spoke to Mason Cox last night. He, of course, is very tight-lipped about clubland things. But I said to him, where's your forward line? Like, he's not playing.
Yeah.
You look at last time Pies and Cats played round 22 last year, the Pies by 8 points, but Mycheck kicked 5, he's out. Elliott kicked 2, he's a test, but, you know, there's lingering issues. Unlikely.
Yep.
McCreary kicked 2, he's out. McStay kicked 2, he's out. He'll probably play VFL this week. No Cox. So Collingwood's forward line has been absolutely decimated. But as I said, first and foremost, our thoughts are with Josh and hope he's okay.
Yeah, and I just think obviously the players' health, and I think that decision taken out of their hands it has to be 100%, because no one sitting here would say that they probably would make that decision at that age, that they should step away for medical reasons. So I think full kudos to the AFL for the concussion panel that they've put together with experts that know this inside out. I'd love to know a little bit more about the decisions that they make, not personally, but how they assess a player, what the XYZ criteria is. I don't think that's possible to probably get out because it's so case by case, but it does seem like that has really tightened up in the last sort of 12 months. There's been a couple of girls at AFLW level that have suffered numerous concussions and have gone to that appeals board or the panel for concussion and have been passed and have gotten through with far more history of concussion than a couple of the players that we've seen. But I think just the importance of making sure that health, and that's the number one priority for this. But yeah, wow, it seems like a really tight constraint around players now. And we saw Aaron Norton on the weekend. That was a very innocuous
Wasn't it?
concussion.
It was,
There was
I was about to
nothing
say
in
there
that.
but that's the thing though. It doesn't have to be much in it
So
now, does there?
then, how do they assess that? Where does that go? So it opens up a whole sort of other realm of other players that have had a multiple concussion history so far that it's like, wow, you're one head knock away from that being the end, which is sad.
We're thinking of Josh. He's 24 years of age. He's dedicated his young life to chasing a dream, and at 24, it's over. So
the great thing now, though, the work that the AFLPA is doing and the clubs are doing as well to make sure that even at 24, yes, footy is his life, but he's also would most likely have would have other things that he's been able to be working with at the same time as playing footy. So the work that they've done with the clubs and with the PA has been huge in that space. So hopefully, and I would more than confidently say he's got something that he can go straight into when he's ready to, so that footy isn't everything and he has other pathways now too.
It has been a wild, let's face it, couple of years in the West. On the other side of this, we talk about what was a wild day and the end of Adam Simpson as the West Coast Eagles coach on Footy Talk. Nice to be with you on Footy Talk. Abbey Holmes, Kate McCarthy and Jack Heverin for Wednesday's edition. Don't forget, tomorrow, Daisy and Heater are back. The all-conquering duo have got Carlton's Zach Williams joining them in the studio for a chat as well, which will be very interesting. Their chat with Todd Goldstein was very funny last week. Very, very funny. Not so funny for Adam Simpson, who has had a really tough couple of years. There's no doubt about it. And it's been an ongoing debate whether West Coast should have parted ways, whether Simo himself should have stepped away. It all came to a head yesterday, and Adam Simpson will no longer be the coach of the West Coast Eagles.
11 years as the senior coach. Took him, of course, to the 2015 grand final, won a flag in 2018. He has a 50% winning record. And I would love to sit here and just celebrate all of the great things that this man has done for the football club. Unfortunately, we're probably going to touch on some of the others as well. But I'm a big Adam Simpson fan. Of course, Keeg spent a year over there and he was so welcoming to us at the football club. But my question is, why now? Like, this is a conversation that has been bubbling along for years, as you've said. But why now after, a 54-point loss to the D's on the G on the weekend? But they were 30-odd points down at quarter time. After that, they stemmed the flow and they certainly need change, right? Change was
I think we all agree with that.
Absolutely.
They need change. Yep.
Change needed to happen.
Yep.
But why now? And I think on your point yesterday, the club put out a statement which was 2 paragraphs long. You didn't like that, calling it putrid, and that's gone everywhere, creating headlines. But I'm sure we'll touch on the press conference as well with Don Pike. But let's celebrate this man for what he has done for that football club. He's delivered silverware. He's taken them to finals campaigns. He has been brilliant for them over the last 11 seasons.
And on your point to why now, I think, and this could be completely incorrectly reported, so don't quote me on it, but I think there was a conversation as to whether he was going to be the person to take them through next year as well. Don Pike said, no, there's a very little chance of that happening. So he said, well, I don't see me staying around for any longer to be of any use to anyone.
Yeah.
So
I said it was mutual.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of how it came apart. I use the term mutual.
Well,
we're going to get rid of you next
loosely.
year. All right, I'll just go now. Okay, it's mutual then.
It's not exactly the conscious uncoupling of Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow, was it?
No. But yeah, he's been a fantastic coach. I mean, that 2015 grand final was his second year at the helm as well. Yeah. There's no doubt this man can coach. There is absolutely no question about it. He will find himself back at coaching whenever he wishes to. I know there's this awkward period of 12 months that coaches seem to have to sit out when they've been sacked.
Unless you're Damien Hardwick.
Yes, that was more than mutual, wasn't it?
That's true.
But yeah, I have no doubt he'll be back. I think he is clearly someone that can coach. I think bar the last sort of 2 or 3 years, which has in no way been his fault, what's happened at that club, and how sort of 1, injuries, 2, list management, things like that. They're in a clear rebuild. I don't think anyone would have been able to coach them much better than what he has. Yeah. So there's obviously a need for a change with the future of that club, but I don't see him staying out of the game for too long.
He's a part of it, but I think now, we're all experts in hindsight, but I think now they could look back as a club and say that after that 2018 grand final, they tried to squeeze the lemon for every last bit of juice that it had, and there wasn't any juice there. They kept players on contracts for too long. They didn't make decisions on others. They had players like an Andrew Gaff who they were offering 2 first-round picks, etc. And they stayed loyal, which is a nice thing to have in this industry these days, but it was probably the wrong call.
And it's unfortunate that all of that does seem to fall on the head coach because it's not their position to, list management and want, obviously they're a part of it, but it doesn't solely come under their banner. I think we need to also touch on what happened throughout the COVID period for them, the injuries they had, the players that they had wiped out. They had players coming in from the waffle, for goodness sake, as top-ups playing AFL football. Like, this is a club that got absolutely decimated for 2-3 years, right? Now we're starting to see the fruits come through of the Harley Reids and the number 1 pick and the exciting youth that is to come for the West Coast Eagles. But I do just want to touch on the press conference with Don Pike.
Do you want to take a listen?
Let's take a listen.
Probably your 300th article. Woodcock. No, not really. It's what, you know. And you guys can be cruel sometimes, really. I mean, you got to keep that in check, because we're human and we have families. So you want more access to our players, treat them with a bit more respect would be a good start. But you know, you got to do your job as well, and we get that. It's the industry. So no, there wasn't really a time. It just feels like time now.
A little bit of a drive-by on the way out.
I've never heard that before.
Do you know? And I loved that.
Yeah,
But I've never heard a press conference clap when another journalist got called out. That's incredible.
We understand the journalists, the media landscape. We operate in it, right? We're not journalists as such.
Oh, no, don't call me the J.
No.
Absolutely not.
You can call me a lot of things.
But Mitchell Woodcock, right, asking that question, he gets the response of your 300th article. You have slandered me for a number of years now. I have emotion. I'm human. I have a family. I have friends that sit and read these articles. Treat us with respect.
Yep.
And that was, of course, a lot of built-up emotion for him not having a say, being smashed week in, week out. And I really actually liked that. And it's true. As an industry, we need to remember these are human beings that we're dealing with. You know, you see fluctuation in form from players. You see wins and losses from coaches. We need to be more mindful of this, and I actually really enjoyed that from Adam Simpson.
Couldn't agree more with you, Abbey. I think the way that I think people slander either players, personalities even, or coaches, I think, it's a tough environment to be in for everyone. And I think the way that people just take cheap shots at players and coaches, they can't come back and say what they want.
No.
Absolutely not, because that would just create headlines. And that's what they want to happen. So the other thing, Jack, you've gone absolutely viral for your tweet, and I couldn't agree more with you. But the statement was, you called it 2 paragraphs. I'm going to call it a paragraph and a sentence, because that's what it is. They couldn't even say thank you in the club statement. There was no thank you for your work. Yeah. That is, as someone that, it doesn't matter what has happened at your football club. If someone has given your football club 11 years of service.
And a flag.
You thank them.
Yeah.
With or without the flag.
Yeah.
But absolutely, like, that's just so disappointing. And whoever ticked that off from that club.
Media,
it needs to sort of have a think, okay, maybe we got that wrong. Maybe we hit enter before we probably should have to get the story out. Maybe we need to issue something that says, look, we got that wrong. Let's thank him. Let's celebrate him. And let's not offer him a pity game.
So I don't tweet often because I don't think there's any benefit in tweeting, to be honest. In fact, I'm almost wrestling whether I still want it or not. I'm almost just about the stage where I get rid of it, to be honest. But I don't know. I just felt compelled to tweet that yesterday. And even to this second, I'm still getting notifications. There are some Eagles fans who are saying it's an overreaction. It's, you know, the most common response was, they put an article up on the website an hour later and it was really beautiful. And it was. I read that article by Gary Stocks from the Eagles, who's a very good operator, and it was a great yarn. It's an hour too late. Put them all up at the same time. Put the statement out with the thank you, and at the bottom of the statement say, please head to westcoasteagles.com.au for a tribute from Adam Simpson, because the piece was really, really good. But that's the first impression that you've got when you make a move on your coach after 11 years and a premiership.
Yeah.
It didn't look great.
And the West Australian, of course, the West Australian hit back hard, didn't they, at his comments with the wins and losses in recent years. But one of the other points, and K-Mac just touched on it, Don Pike, the CEO, is sitting there with, of course, Adam Simpson, saying that we are going to offer him to coach this weekend. And just Simo's face, first and foremost, to everybody watching that, meant that they hadn't actually had that conversation before. And is he just assuming that he wants a goodbye game? Is he assuming, like we just spoke about it before, that's like me getting sacked by Channel 7 today, right? Publicly. And then them saying, but we don't have anybody to work on the boundary on Friday night. So can you just come and fill in and then
And we'll actually
see you
have
later.
someone that shadows you so that they know how to do your job when it actually gets done.
Exactly. And the only reason I think Adam Simpson coaches this weekend is to say thank you to the fans and the
Oh,
supporters.
but let's not forget Liam Ryan's 100th game.
Yeah.
Oh,
God.
But you know what I mean? Like, he's been there 11 years. There's so many people that adore him, have admired what he's done for the football club for 11 years of service. That's, for me, the only reason that he goes back and coaches against Brisbane this week.
Would you coach this week if you're Adam Simpson?
I'm one for the fans and for the people. I would probably put it behind, like, everything on me, and want to go out and say thank you for everybody else that has supported me along my journey.
Would you?
No,
neither.
I think it's...
I already
people's
knew that
person.
you were a much better person than I am, and I would sit there with 2 fingers up in the stand and enjoy my beer while I'm having it, and all the fans can get around me from there. But I am not coaching in that coach's box after they just sacked me. No way.
I'm a people's person. I'm too much of a people's person.
No, and Kate's a fingers up person, which if you're watching on the stream or watching on the cameras, you'll be able to see. Just to finish up on this before we finish as well. So some of the leading contenders at this stage are all assistant coaches right now. Dean Cox is at Sydney, Jamie Graham's at Fremantle, Josh Carr's at Port Adelaide, and feels like it was only a few weeks ago that Josh Carr was walking into the power job.
Yes.
Jared Schofield will be the interim coach. He played a lot of footy for the Eagles as well. They're all really good names, and it's probably the sort of job that suits a first-time coach because they are going to be very much in the development stage. But my question to both of you, they're a massive club, the West Coast Eagles. Money's not an issue, and they have a bit of the Collingwoods about them in some respects that they always want the big names. What's stopping them asking the question of Ken Hinkley?
Exactly right.
What's stopping them asking the question of Luke Beveridge or someone else like that? We saw it with Ross when Ross left St Kilda. That was the other thing that came out of yesterday for me is that all the names wheeled out are all assistant coaches that haven't coached at the level before. What's stopping them going and getting a proven coach?
There is nothing stopping them. And I think if I'm Ken Hinkley or if I'm Luke Beveridge, I'm having that conversation and I'm looking very closely because I have potentially lost the support of some of the supporters and fans of my football club. So maybe it is time to go somewhere fresh, get a new group, implement new philosophies, new structure, new systems, and see if I can start again effectively. So I'm on board that, and I think they will absolutely be having those conversations behind closed doors. Another one that is an interesting chat is Ash Hansen too.
Yes.
Of course, he's one of the best tacticians in the game at Carlton at the moment. He's been a head coach at VFL level for Footscray a number of years ago. He just sees the game so incredibly well. So he's also got his name thrown up, Nathan Buckley too. So there's so many options, Kate.
One team that would probably be a little bit, feeling like they're on the back foot now would be Tasmania. They had sort of their pick of the bunch, and they still do at the moment. But that was something that they probably thought, okay, there's no vacancies at the moment. We can kind of just take our time. We can talk to people as we wish. But now there's a bit of crunch time because West Coast Eagles now have the pick of the bunch. We know the sort of money that they'd have sitting somewhere for a coach.
Oh, yes.
If money is an issue for any of these coaches, it's not going to be if they're the ones that get this job. But I think it sort of opens up a little bit more of a time frame on things for Tasmania to get their ducks in a row, but also other clubs that are looking to move now because of this. So I think you're exactly right. I think Luke Beveridge, I think Ken Hinkley, I think anyone that's contracted at the moment, if they think that they want to go after them, they will.
Watch this space, I reckon. I've no knowledge, but just the size of that club and the way they think, they'll
Get
want
the popcorn out. It's going to be juicy.
It's going to be very, very
You
interesting.
go and create some more headlines.
No, I don't. This is not my caper.
Hey,
I'm
you're
just
in.
tweeting. I'm
Tweeting.
just here to host. We're getting told to wrap up. We are out of here. Great work, you two queens. It's been a lot of fun this morning. Don't forget, of course, if you're listening on Spotify, to hit the bell to be notified when we drop a new episode. And, of course, check us out on Instagram at footytalk_pod. Daisy and Heater, back tomorrow.